What if the cabin fight in Resident Evil 4 was a bit harder? And by a bit, I mean replacing every single enemy that invades the cabin with the chainsaw-wielding maniac Dr. Salvador. Let's find out. And if you like absurd Resident Evil 4 content like this, be sure to subscribe because this channel is full of it. You know, the cabin scene in Resident Evil 4 might be one of the most stressful situations in the entire game, at least when it comes down to remembering how it felt the first time. Of course, other notable encounters with the Regenerator and the Verdugo are also up there, but the cabin scene just made you feel helpless. When you went into it for the very first time, you had no idea what was coming next or how long you had to survive. All you saw were the glowing eyes of your assailants outside the cabin, slowly inching towards you. Luckily, you had furniture, ammunition, and of course, Navy SEAL sniper Luis Serra on your side. You could block out the windows to delay your enemies, and you could knock down the ladders once they started coming in up top. Despite the sheer amount of enemies coming for your blood, you had a multitude of options, and when push came to shove, Luis hopefully would have your back, unless you accidentally shot him. Because if that's the case, he'll just obliterate you. But anyways, as you get accustomed to this battle and how enemies enter the building, you basically had options to keep them at bay until it was over. But today, we're ripping the band-aid off. We're turning the cabin fight into a chainsaw bloodbath by replacing every enemy with Dr. Salvador. And all the safety measures you thought you had in place are now about to go out the window. So let's take a look at the insanity that is the Chainsaw Cabin Challenge. So the first time I attempted this, I thought I was going to be straight up Rambo. I strolled into this cabin with only a pistol to my name, and I had no plans on taking any prisoners. But that's when my world came crashing down around me. So the cutscene plays out as normal because, well, it's a cutscene. Luis throws us his long piece of wood, and we use it to reinforce a door that somehow stays shut this entire time. I was feeling pretty good. Even with just a pistol, I was thinking I was going to fudge my way through the fight and somehow survive. So I took the more foolhardy approach by leaving all the windows open. Me and Luis were camping the front window not long after the ordeal started, and we knocked down a few Dr. Salvadors. But something was wrong. It sounded like a marathon was happening behind us, and much like the Zed in Fist of the North Star, I was already dead. Ironically, as Leon screamed in pain, Luis asked if I was okay.
Leon, are you okay?
And suddenly, I just realized how much more difficult this was going to be. Round 2. Now at this point I was thinking, okay, let's just do this like I always do. We're gonna move some furniture to block the windows so we don't get swarmed. After all, Dr. Salvador is still a ganado, so he has to climb through windows just like everyone else. And that logic, that flawed way of thinking was my second mistake. You see, this is when I found out that any destructible object in the way of Dr. Salvador just explodes into wood shavings anytime he needs to get through it. Normally the enemies have to pound the bookshelves until they can clear them away, but Dr. Salvador just fute no kwamis that wood into sawdust and strolls into Murder Town. So I ran up the stairs like the coward that I am, and these guys wasted no time following me. Maybe if I run by them I can escape. Oh, well, there goes my head. Round 3. Bookshelves in place, and Luis has sent me to my room upstairs. I wasted no time collecting the necessary grenades that were conveniently stored in this shoddy cabin, and my hope was that if I camped out up here, perhaps they just all swarm Luis. I mean, the dude dies in like an hour anyways, so we might as well speedrun the death sequence. There's nothing more terrifying than looking out a window though, and seeing chainsaw men looking up at you while running towards the house. I just heard the furniture downstairs all explode at once, and before I could turn around, the murder mobile was driving up the staircase. I'm really regretting just strolling in here with a pistol. I guess it's time to do the only sensible thing. So I blew myself up with a grenade. Leon's a champion though, and his kick-up speed is much faster than everyone else. So while the Dr. Salvadors are calling for life alert, I decide to run downstairs to see Luis absolutely decimating the burlap bag squad. And this is when I learned something pretty neat. Luis was so powerful, he was two-hitting Dr. Salvador. This is when I realized I'd never be a true champion like him, so I decided to blow him up too. However, turning it back to an open window was never a good idea, and my head hit the floor once again. Okay, get in Ashley, we're going shopping. So I grabbed a shotgun this time around. Bookshelves in place, I felt like this was the run. I absorbed every single collectible in the building while banking on my strategy that Luis needed to basically save my butt. At least with a shotgun, I could manage the crowd a lot easier, instead of relying on headshots and kicks. For some reason this time though, the Dr. Salvadors did not charge the house immediately. It was oddly quiet, and then all the windows blew out at once. If I could force these guys to the floor, Luis could put in a few rounds and knock them out one by one. I retreated upstairs because I knew they were going to turn their attention immediately to me, which they did, but I had grenades ready. I expected them to come a bit faster, but I could hear Luis hitting execution after execution since all the Salvadors were stunned by the stun grenade. Only one managed to make it upstairs at first, and I was able to down him. I then hit him with a kick and did another kick combo on the other. Luis then ran upstairs, and that could only mean one thing. Somehow, Luis had killed every Dr. Salvador downstairs, and with one final shot, the area grew silent. There were bodies everywhere downstairs and some were even outside. I felt this was a bit of a cheap win, so I rebooted so I could actually see the carnage take place. So it turns out that since Dr. Salvador's bodies do not disappear, that means the game doesn't think to respawn them. So there's actually just a set number of Dr. Salvadors at one time and no more enter the fray. Like Kevin McAllister defending my home. This time I had a shotgun ready on the staircase. And then I made a bad call and lost my head. This next round had a terrible start, and the next thing I knew, every single enemy followed me upstairs. I kicked and kicked and kicked, and then, died. But this next round was the second win. With grenade throw after grenade throw on the stairwell, I dealt a lot of damage in a small amount of time. And I turned around to see Dr. Salvador sliding down the staircase on a slip and slide made of blood. Oddly enough, for some reason a Dr. Salvador without a mask and chainsaw entered the house and started tanking some of Luis's shots. But with this death, the cabin had been cleared once again, and this challenge had come to a close. So I hope you enjoyed this reimagining of one of Resident Evil 4's most iconic scenes with some additional chainsaw flair. And I'll see you all again on HorrorScoped real soon. Cheers!